Yes, Geordies, welcome back to another episode. Hope everyone's well, and it is another preview. These games are coming thick and fast, and Newcastle welcome Athletic Club to St James's Park in the Champions League under the lights. Beautiful night. We're going to be previewing that game. And we're back to doing another preview. And coming up in this video, we're going to look at our record against Athletic Club. And then in my previews, I always try and tell people a little bit about the opposition. So we will be talking about Athletic Club, looking at their injuries, their style of play, how they're getting on this season. Then we'll be talking about Newcastle United and predicting an 11. So if you are new around here and want to join the Mango Fruit Basket, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to support this channel. There's also a hype button I've heard that's new. If you can hype this video, try and get some more eyeballs on it because it would be greatly appreciated. So we've got a lot to talk about because Newcastle United haven't been their usual self this season. Let's be brutally honest about it. In the Champions League, it's been a different story. Against Benfica, we had some sequences of play that were beautiful, scored a beautiful goal against Barcelona, a goal that they would be proud of. Against Union Saint-Gilloise away from home, we were tremendous, put four past them, and it was a beautiful night. But you can't say the same about Newcastle in the Premier League, and that is me being brutally honest. Made a video yesterday looking at statistics, proving that our intensity, our aggression that we used to be built around, that used to be our blueprint, has come down. Now, I put it in black and white, and a lot of people are saying we're trying to manage the emotions of the Champions League, the Premier League, the Cup games. I get all that. But we've got a deeper squad for a reason. Why are Newcastle United the only club that has to manage emotions? Why not any other Champions League club? Why not any other Europa League club? Why not any of the Europa Conference League clubs that are playing in Europe and the Premier League? But no, Newcastle United need to take their foot off the gas just because they want to favour one other competition. I disagree with that. I think we should be trying to win every single game. Now, what I will admit, this is not the most important game this week, but I do want to see a good performance. I don't even care about the result anymore. I want to see a good performance. I often use this analogy in football. There's a way you can lose games or have a bad start this season, but feel falling forwards. Newcastle United are not falling forwards. Last season, we didn't have a great start this season, but we were actually performing. You could see signs that, yeah, it's just a matter of time before those opportunities that we are creating are going to convert into goals. But this season, we haven't been creating opportunities. Let's be brutally honest about it. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm joining these two games together. I'm joining Athletic Club and Brentford away on the weekend together because I don't want us to be tremendous in the Champions League against Athletic Club and then go to the weekend and just be below par. So even if we have a good performance against Athletic Club and win the game, let's say we win the game 4-0, obviously I'm going to be happy, but I'm going to sit there and think, yeah, I want that performance against Brentford. If I don't see a similar performance, if I don't see the similar attitude and the will to win against Brentford, it's going to be difficult because Brentford are unbelievable. But as long as we perform like we do in the Champions League, in the Premier League, that is what I want to see. I don't mind losing games of football. I've said this before. When I lose, it's not about losing. It's about the performance, the manner of the defeat. Right, I've ranted on for a little bit of time now. So let's get into the match preview because let's start by looking at our head-to-head with Athletic Club. Now, we've built up a beautiful relationship with Athletic Club and we're going to be talking about it. Now, we've only played them twice competitively and played them once in a friendly. In our very first competitive fixture, we beat them 3-2 at home and then they beat us in the return leg 1-0 away from home. That was in the UEFA Cup, I believe. And Athletic Club went through on away goals. Now, away goals don't stand anymore, but at the time they did. And then we beat them 2-1 in a friendly last season. Now, in the Champions League, Newcastle United come into this game after back-to-back victories that reignited their Champions League campaign. We got beat off Barcelona and then we beat Union Saint-Gilloise, and then we'll beat Benfica. Now, Athletic Club in the Champions League this season, they've already played Arsenal, which was their opening game. They got beat 2-0. They went to Dortmund, got beat 4-1, and then they hosted Karabag and beat them 3-1. So they've won 1 out of 3 games. Now, before making this preview, I've sat and watched Athletic Club this season. In fact, I watched them last season as well because they are a club that I enjoy watching. Just the principles and the values of Athletic Club are a beautiful club, and I will be talking about it. Athletic Club actually have a lot of similarities on and off the pitch to Newcastle. Even this season, they've not had the best of starts. And just like Newcastle, they're not good on the road. Newcastle United have only won 1 game in all competitions away from home. So of Athletic Club. Everything about Athletic Club and Newcastle United are quite similar. Even last season, they both had tremendous campaigns where Athletic Club finished 4th, Newcastle got into Champions League as well, and they both had deep runs in the cups, and they've both had a love affair with their domestic cup competitions. And we are going to be talking about it all, but I'm going to tell you why I enjoy watching Athletic Club. But what they are currently achieving is nothing short of exceptional and deserve a lot more credit. Since top flight football began in Spain in 1929, Athletic Club have never been relegated. But to make things even more difficult for them, since 1912, they have adhered to a policy of signing only players born in the Basque Country. Now, what do I love about football clubs? When you have a good academy, bringing youth, giving youth an opportunity. Last season, Athletic Club finished 4th in La Liga. Now, when they announced their squad, they announced a 28-man squad. 21 of their players came through their academy. That is a beautiful thing. So not only can they not just go out and sign whoever they want, because they only sign players from the Basque Country, so they've already got limited resources in the transfer market. They have a wonderful academy that they put trust in. So considering all that, they've never been relegated. What a football club. Now, what I love about Athletic Club and why I find them similar to Newcastle United, they've got a passionate but respectful fan base, but they've also got a lot of values within their club. They've built a culture which is beautiful. Not many players leave Athletic Club because they built an environment that players just want to be there. And that's similar to Newcastle United under Eddie Howe. And that is why almost 30 years ago, since that UEFA Cup game, a friendship between Newcastle United and Athletic Club is growing ever stronger. I've just mentioned the scoreline of that game, but even Rob Lee selected Athletic Club to be the opposition for his testimonial. So since that UEFA Cup game, a beautiful connection was made. That's why I think this game is actually going to be quite emotional. I don't know the word, is that the right word for it? But I don't think it's going to be a hostile, feisty atmosphere. I think it'll be loud, it'll be noisy, but it'll be a respectful game between the two sides. Even last season, Athletic Club were posting tweets about us. Almost 4 months on from our friendly at St. James's Park, Newcastle sit 3rd in the Premier League. Athletic Club sit 4th in the La Liga. The Lions and the Magpies have Europe's in their sight. So we're aiming and reaching to get into that Champions League. And guess what? We'll get drawn against each other. It was just meant to be. What a beautiful story. But now we're going to talk about why Athletic Club are quite similar, not identical, but quite similar to Newcastle United on the pitch. So their coach is called Ernesto Valverde. What a name like that is. It just rolls off the tongue, isn't it? Ernesto Valverde. And this is his second time in charge of the club, and he re-established them, guiding them to 4th in the Premier League last season. Now, what's been great about Newcastle United over the past couple of seasons, we've had a tremendous defensive record, even this season. Now, last season, Athletic Club conceded the least amount of goals in La Liga, only conceding 29 goals all season. So they very rarely give up opportunities. So we're going to have to be on our game to break them down, because I do think they'll come to St. James's Park and be very compact. So what's their style of play? How do they play offensively, and what's their formation? Well, their formation is pretty flexible. You'll see their team news announced is a 4-2-3-1, but in possession, they function more like a 4-3-3. So for that reason, I expect them to be a lot of individual battles all over the pitch. Now, I always say, if you win your individual battles, you're halfway there winning the game. If you win your midfield battle, you're 60% there winning the game. The midfield, the individual battles all over the pitch should be the basics to any football game. Before tactics, you go up against your man. I'm your guy. I'm going to get the better of you today. And that'll make life and your job a lot easier. So I do expect loads of little individual battles all over the pitch, which I'm incredibly excited about. So let's talk about them from a offensive style. The direct, fast attacks. They're so effective at counter-attacking quickly, especially after winning the ball back high up the pitch. Does that remind you of anybody last season? Newcastle United. Counter-attacks are sharp and well-coordinated. Midfielders like Orhan Sanchez, who has been linked to Newcastle United, and Nico Williams driving forwards quickly. Now, what is integral to their attack is their wing play. What do I always beat the drum about in football? Have players in advanced positions. Have forward options when you're in possession. Their wingers stay high and wide. They stretch the pitch to create width because they've got pace and the excellent one-on-one situations, so they will pose a threat that way. Now, what Athletic Club do a lot is plenty of crosses into the box. So whoever's playing centre-back, whether that be Malik Chow, Sven Botman, are going to have to eat up everything coming into that box, because their manager gives the license to their midfielders to make third man runs, arriving into the box very late. So we need to track our runners. Against West Ham, as you can see on the screen, we were just allowing bodies to ghost into space. We were just allowing players to get in behind the midfield, go into the corridor of uncertainty where it's in front of the defence, but behind the midfield. We weren't picking up or tracking our runners. We do that against Athletic Club and we will be in trouble. They will cause us problems. We made everything in the middle of the pitch, actually all over the pitch against West Ham, far too easy for them. And if we continue to do that, we're just making life on the pitch so much difficult for us to win a game of football. Do the basics, track your runners, mark your man, try and win your individual battles, and don't make it easy for the opposition to play through the lines. Everything we did against West Ham, don't do it against Athletic Club or even Brentford on the weekend, because they have quality running through their side. Now, they do have some injury news that we will get onto shortly, but even with the injuries, they do have quality. So what they like from a defensive point of view, well, they're very compact. They're defending a flat 4-4-2, which becomes a narrow when they go into a deeper block. So what they want to do is force the opposition into wide areas because they think they're not as dangerous. Now, when the ball is high up the pitch, they excel at winning the ball back in the opposition half and then converting these opportunities into quick shots and goals. So if we're dwelly on the ball and take that extra touch when it's not needed, you will get caught out in possession because they play as a unit. They are one of the most well-coordinated teams when it comes to defensive style of play. They are so defensively solid. So it will be difficult to break them down. This is why we need plenty of movement. Move the ball quickly. I don't want to see you taking 4 or 5 touches on the ball. I want to see you get the ball out your feet and then lay it off and then creating an angle to receive the ball. Against West Ham, I often speak about having players don't play on the same line. If anybody watched my tactics video a couple of weeks ago, I spoke about not playing on the same line. Against West Ham, we were playing on the same line, which makes it incredibly easy for the opposition just to defend against because everything's in front of them. We've got to create angles, create little triangles all over the pitch, be an option for the man in possession. Look at your teammate when he's in possession as he needs help. This is what they've got to focus on. Be an option, because when we were receiving the ball against West Ham, nobody wanted possession. It looked like we were scared of the ball. Now we've got to be an option. You've got to help your man out in possession, because if you don't help your man out, he's got nowhere to play through unless it's backwards. And then that's a negative pass. The opposition can squeeze the pitch and you're getting forced backwards. That's not what you want, because eventually that'll turn into a mistake. And this is what Athletic Club excel at. So defensively, it's very similar to the way Newcastle played. Now, one thing I will say is Newcastle last season were a lot more aggressive. Athletic Club aren't really aggressive where they're robust and physical. Their defensive shape is more about setting traps to force you into a negative pass or a mistake. If you're wondering what a negative pass is, negative pass just means a sideways pass or a backwards pass. Soon as that happens, that's a trigger for them to try and win the ball. This is why I'm saying you've got to have players in advanced positions to play forwards, play through the lines. I want to see us have a beautiful game, play beautiful football. This is what the Mango wants to see, because we've shown it against Benfica, we've shown it against Barcelona. I don't want us to do it in spells. Let's be organised, let's help each other out in possession and play to our strengths. So let's talk about Newcastle. This is why you're all here. I've just blabbered on about Athletic Club when we don't even support them. So you're probably sitting there thinking, I don't even care about them. I want to talk about Newcastle United. As pitiful as Newcastle were against West Ham on Sunday, Champions League nights at St James's Park are a different kettle of fish. And the beauty about this is Eddie Howe is not short of players that desperately want to start games. I can imagine Lewis Miley watching Joe Linton, for example, and being like, yeah, I want to be out on that pitch. I can imagine Jacob Ramsey saying that. I can imagine Harvey Barnes saying that about Anthony Gordon. If I'm Anthony Elanga, I'm clamming at the chance to get an opportunity to try and inject some life, some pace into us. And this is why you have a squad. I don't want us to go through the motions, manage our emotions. You've got a squad for a reason. Use that squad. The players aren't good enough, get out. If you're not performing, somebody else will come in and perform. Let's stop picking players for sentimental reasons or namesake. Pick players based on what the game needs. And this game needs runners. So I want us to use West Ham as a wake-up call. I want us to think, right, we've we've been humbled a little bit. We need to start going back to basics, bringing some energy into the game and trying to win games of football. None of this scoring and then sitting back and inviting pressure on, because eventually 9 times out of 10 you will be punished for it. What I don't get is you're having success playing a certain way. Why change that? Even mid-game, if you go 1-0 up playing a certain way, obviously it's working, you're getting success. So why come away from that? Why instantly go back and sit in a defensive shape? You're beating the opposition playing the way you are. That's a sign to continue doing it. So if you do put one past them, let's continue doing what we're doing, because obviously it's working. Then we'll put 2 past them. Then we'll put 3 past them. Take the game away from them. That's what I want to see from Newcastle United. So we definitely need a response to that defeat against West Ham, especially after having Brentford on the weekend. I thought we were building momentum. I thought those wins will bring out some performances, but I thought wrong. Now, I don't want to question integrity. I don't think we're thinking, oh, this is a Champions League game, we'll better perform for this. A lot of people are saying Anthony Gordon only picks and chooses which games he performs in. Do you reckon he's sitting there thinking Thomas Tuchel respects the Champions League? It's the biggest competition in the world, so if I'm performing in the Champions League, that's going to get more eyeballs on me. Do you reckon he's sitting there thinking that? I don't want to question his integrity. I just believe nobody was really at it against West Ham. But even if you think about our games against Wolves at home, Fulham at home, in the Premier League, well, we weren't great. We might have got the result, but the performances weren't great. We need to be honest about it, guys. So I want to see this as a 2-part series. This game against Athletic Club is only half of this week. We need to incorporate Brentford into it, because I've got no doubt we'll play well against Athletic Club and then be shocking against Brentford. Brentford are obviously a very difficult team. So if we get beat against Brentford and have a good performance, I can hold my hands up and say they were just better on the day. But if we're just lackluster and have no energy about us and don't move the ball quickly and just look disinterested, that's when I get my back up. So I'll repeat again. I do not mind losing games of football. I do not mind dropping points, drawing games, because every game in the Premier League is difficult. You're never ever guaranteed to win. You need to earn your win, and that comes through performances. But what I've noticed in the Champions League, Newcastle play reactive football, focusing on counter-attacks and compact shape. That was our blueprint last season that got us into this position. But in the Premier League, we've tried to go to a more possession-heavy game. And the reason why I think we're doing that is because in the Premier League, they are more tactically better. So they can get in their defensive shape a lot better than these Benfica teams, Athletic Club teams, St. Union Gilwar. In the Premier League, the quality level in the Premier League is insane. So I'm not saying Brentford's going to be easy. I just want to see a good attitude in our performance. So how do we break down Athletic Club? Exploit wide areas. We need to create wide overloads, because that's super important. Athletic Club have their wingers staying high and wide. So you want to do 2 things. If you are aggressive in the wing play, that will force their wingers back, so that takes away their attacking threat. But also, if their wingers don't come back, then you've created an overload out wide, and that is how you beat Athletic Club. When you've got a profile like Nick Valdemada, who we need to offer more service to, because we've been shambolic in trying to service him, and he's been feeding off scraps. So for him to score 6 goals already this season is quite actually remarkable, considering our XG is so low. So then minimal chances he's converting. Imagine what we can do if we actually supply him like we supplied our old number 14 last season. So I want to see us be a bit more aggressive on the ball, be a bit more direct, get around them, have runners moving off the ball. Movement kills in football, and let's try and supply our new striker. But by using the wing play, we'll take away Athletic's biggest threats. And this is why I'll say it again. If Dan Burn plays at left back, Jacob Ramsey has to start. If Lewis Hall plays, you might get away with playing Joe Linton. But personally, I think Jacob Ramsey has to come in, because Joe Linton has given us no reason for him to continue playing, because he's definitely not in form. Let's be brutally honest about it. Now, we also need to stop the supply to Oran Sanchez, because he's crucial in linking up Athletics midfield to attack. Allow him no space. If we give him the space like we give Lucas Pateca, he will cause us damage. Then I'll beat the drum again. Plenty of movement off the ball. Compromise to hide each other's weaknesses. When Nick Valdemada drops deep, that should be a trigger in whoever's on the wing or one of our number 8s to get in behind them. We need to stretch the game. Otherwise, it's going to be far too comfortable and easy for Athletic Club. We need to beat this into the players. So I want to see Newcastle be aggressive. And I'm not even talking about without the ball. I'm talking about with the ball. If you do something good, don't just admire it. Follow your pass. Be an option for the guy in possession, because that goal against Benfica, when Anthony Gordon played it into Nick Valdemara, then followed his pass, he'd give him an option to play off. He'd give him a reason to play one-touch football, and the opposition can't cope with it. So instead of just playing a beautiful pass and just saying, oh yeah, I did well there, follow your pass, be aggressive off the ball, move away from your man, create separation, because that creates space for yourself, but it also creates space for your teammates. Honestly, I could talk about this for days, but that's what I want to see from Newcastle United. There is a couple of players I would need to be wary of, but Athletic Club come into this with some injuries as well. So let's talk about the injuries before we predict the starting 11. So Newcastle United, Johan Wissa is obviously injured. Tino Livramento is obviously injured. Now, I have read somewhere that Anthony Gordon is doubtful. Now, in my opinion, I probably wouldn't start him anyways. That's a spoiler alert for my starting 11. But Athletic Club come into this with some injuries. 5 of their first team players are injured, and Nico Williams is doubtful. Nico Williams came on against Real Sociedad, and you could tell he wasn't match fit. He's just coming back from an injury, so it might be a game too soon for him. Now, Athletic Club come into this game after back-to-back defeats. I actually watched them against Real Sociedad on the weekend. Real Sociedad went 1-0 up. Athletic Club brought it back to 1-1. Real Sociedad went 2-1 up. Athletic Club brought back to 2-2, showing great resilience. And then Real Sociedad scored with the last kick of the game. Now, that must hurt Athletic Club. So they might come into this without any confidence. I don't know, but I love their midfielder, to be honest. And that is Mikel Jurigiza, if I've pronounced that right. But he's just got a lovely blend of everything. He's good off the ball. He's aggressive. He can tackle. He covers the ground well. He's technically very good. He can see a pass. Just a wonderful, well-rounded midfielder. So he's somebody that will get on the ball, try and make things happen, move the ball dead nicely. So we just need to be wary of him. But this would be my starting 11. And I would actually bring in Aaron Ramsdale in goal. I think I've seen enough from Nick Pope to say Aaron Ramsdale deserves his opportunity. But also in games like this, where if you're not playing with dynamic wing backs that can progress the ball forwards, you need somebody that is comfortable doing it. And Aaron Ramsdale can sometimes miss out that pass, go straight to the front man, be a little bit more direct if we need to be in possession. Because if you consistently give it to Dan Burn on the left back and you need him to progress the ball forwards, you might not get it from him. I would also keep Malik Chow in the side and Sven Botman. I wouldn't be surprised to see Fabian Schär start, but I would bring back Lewis Hall. Even though Dan Burn, personally, I think he had a stinker against West Ham, it's not even for that reason. The reason being is because he's played 90 minutes pretty much every game this season. He looks knackered. And if Lewis Hall is fit enough to be on the bench against West Ham, he's fit enough to play 60 minutes. I would start with Sandro Tonali, Bruno, and Jacob Ramsey in the middle, because Jacob Ramsey's a player that can play through the lines, force your opposition backwards a little bit, but also he gives us that dynamism that we're lacking in midfield. I would also bring in Anthony Elanga over Jacob Murphy, not because Jacob Murphy's been bad, more because I want Jacob Murphy to start against Brentford, because he is probably the only winger that is in form right now, a goal contribution in his last 3 games. So I'd probably say to Jacob Murphy, I'm not dropping you, I'm just resting you and saving you for Brentford. Nick Valdemara up front, and then I would actually start with Harvey Barnes. And again, it's not about dropping Anthony Gordon, it's about just giving him a kick up the backside to say, look, there's somebody waiting in the wings ready to take your place. Make him understand that he needs to work harder. He needs to try and make things happen. I get the feeling now that he's starting to believe that he's too good for Newcastle United. I'm being perfectly honest. So that would be my starting 11, but also what I think Eddie Howe might do. But I want to hear your thoughts. Drop us a comment in the below. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I can't wait till tomorrow. I will be doing a match reaction, but the day later, because I'm actually going to the game. And by the time I get back, it's going to be late. I'm tired. We'll do match reaction the day later. But as always, enjoy your day. Stay safe. Be kind. We're the lads.